What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Odd Shopper channel. And today we're talking more college football betting ahead of Friday, September the 1st. It is week one, so we have the extended slate over multiple days. And we'll be talking about the 4 FBS games, skipping the FCS, of course. Lines aren't quite out yet. And before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. We also have a phenomenal promo from Caesars that you need to take advantage of before you watch this video. Great way to boost your bankroll. Right now, new users can bet $50 with Caesars. You could even bet one of these games, and you will get $250 in the form of bonus bets. When that bet settles, you'll get your first $50, and then you'll get $50 each subsequent week for 4 weeks, and you have 7 days after you get those to use them. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. But make sure to take advantage of this. These promos are a great way to boost your bankroll and keep you playing all throughout the season. All right, we turn to Friday. We got a fun slate on deck. First game, this is a semi-rivalry. Central Michigan taking on Michigan State. Some of the MAC upsets over Big Ten schools have actually been this very matchup. Right now, Central Michigan, 14-point underdog to Michigan State. The total in the game is 45. We're sitting really low here. And I think there's a couple angles for this game. First and foremost, I am interested in the points with Central Michigan. I haven't played this myself. The number I'm waiting for is 14.5. That half point, very key to this specific game, and we'll get into why. But I'm also interested in the under here. I actually played this at 47 myself. It's come down a little bit, but still okay with that number. Central Michigan, I'm expecting to be very run-heavy this year. They have co-starters listed at quarterback between Jace Bauer and Bert Emanuel. They're both mobile. Bert Emanuel, he's electric on the ground. If you watch that snowy game they played last year where he had like 300 yards all-purpose, a lot of those coming on the ground. Just an absolutely ridiculous rusher. And Jace Bauer's a little more of a thrower, but he averages over 5 yards per carry himself. You have a stable of backs back. You lose Lou Nichols, but he got injured last year, so Miles Bailey and Marion Lukes, they all got time. And then you lose your top receiver, Carlos Carrier, so I'm expecting even more rushing this year from this team. Not to mention offensive line. They return 3 starters and get a couple decent transfers here. Finally, with Central Michigan, this is a good defense, one of the best defenses in the MAC. 9 starters are back for this team. So expecting defensive game plan, ground and pound from Central Michigan. Well, what can we expect from Michigan State? This team lost their quarterback and their best receiver, Keon Coleman, right after spring. They project to be pretty run-heavy as well. And then, I'm not sure what this team is going to offer in terms of defense in Big Ten play, but I do think they can stand up to the rushing attack of Central Michigan. So right away, you have 2 run-heavy teams. I think good defense in Central Michigan on one side, and Michigan State playing inferior competition on the other. With the new clock rules and the clock running after first downs, I think this does lend itself to the under. And again, not sure who's playing quarterback for Central. Not sure how Michigan State scores a lot of points this year in general, just with the woes they have at receiver and quarterback. So the under in this game is going to be the play. Our second game, we go back to the MAC. Miami, Ohio takes on Miami, Florida for the battle of who's the real Miami. 16.5 point spread in favor of the Hurricanes, 45.5 total here. This is going to be a fun game. I think Miami, Ohio is going to be a great team in the MAC, but I also believe they're a little bit overmatched in this game. You look at their player personnel, they get Brett Gabbert back. This team plays a pretty tough non-conference every year. It was the non-conference that got him injured last year. They returned 3 of their top 4 running backs. However, this team is going to be forced to throw, and they lost their top 2 receivers, Matt Kippenhammer and Jalen Walker. They do return Miles Marshall, and I think a few of their transfers are interesting, like Joe Wilkins from Notre Dame. He should be pretty good here. But you lose 3 on the offensive line, and I'm not sure what this unit's going to look like. If you just look at last year, they were outside the top 100 in run blocking, outside the top 50 in pass blocking, so it's not the best offensive line. And then on defense, they lose 2 starters. Unfortunately, they were 2 of their better starters in John Saunders Jr. and Ryan McWood. So I'm expecting a slight step back from the defense. Whereas Miami, this team has the talent edge. They should be revitalized with the new OC. Shannon Dawson comes in from Houston. Van Dyke is healthy. Henry Parrish is back at running back. They got a good 4-star freshman behind him. You have 5 receivers with experience. I think Xavier Restrepo in a full season healthy is going to be awesome. They had Tyler Harrell as a deep threat, +2 4-stars. Add Cam McCormick at tight end. Their offensive line is rebuilt, but not necessarily in a bad way. You have 3 starters back with premier experience. You add Javion Cohen from Alabama in the portal. He was a starter there. Matthew Lee from Central Florida, starter there. And then they have maybe the top offensive line recruit in the country in Francis Mauigoa. So right away, I think this team can just run the ball right down your throat, especially against a MAC school. And then on defense, I mean, this team should be awesome. I think their weakness is in the secondary, but they add a bunch of transfers here. Jadias Richard from Vanderbilt, Jaden Davis from Oklahoma. You get Devontae Brown from UCF. Plus your front seven, I mean, this is just an elite unit. Francisco Mauigoa, the brother of Francis, comes in from Washington State at linebacker. I'm not really sure how Miami, Ohio scores a lot of points in this game. And if this new Shannon Dawson offense is up and running, which I expect it to be, I think Miami puts up points. I played -16.5 myself. That's the current line, so absolutely fine with that here. Next game, Louisville takes on Georgia Tech in a rare conference matchup for week 1. Louisville is the 7.5-point favorite. You can probably find a 7 in some spots. Georgia Tech at 7.5 is juiced pretty heavily. I'm seeing like -120, -125. The over-under is 49. Somewhat interesting there. We'll start with the Louisville side. New head coach, new OC. It's the Braun brothers coming over from Purdue. They also bring their DC. So now we're going to the air raid. And to orchestrate the air raid, they add Jack Plummer from Cal. He previously was on Purdue with Jeff Brown. So continuity there. There shouldn't be as many hiccups as maybe you would see with completely new offenses entering other programs. Running back, Jawar Jordan's back. This team smashed the transfer portal at receiver, and we know Purdue will rotate. Or they did rotate, so I'm expecting Louisville to do the same. Jamari Thrash from Georgia State, Jaden Thompson, Cincinnati, Kevin Coleman, Jackson State, and then you bring back Amari Huggins-Bruce. So pretty good receiving core here. Offensive line is relatively intact. You bring back 4 guys with starting experience. You bring Eric Miller over from Purdue, John Paul Flores from Virginia, Willie Tyler from Rutgers, and Lance Robinson from Houston. You've got about 7 guys with starting experience here, so if one person can't quite make the jump or the transition, you have enough depth to potentially get there. Where I do think they're going to take a step back is on defense, especially the edge group. With Yasir Abdullah and Yaya Diaby, this edge rush group was awesome last year. They do have some pretty interesting guys coming in, and defensive tackle returns all their main guys. So I still think they'll hold up against the run here, which is what Georgia Tech primarily wants to do, and why I think this is a pretty decent matchup for them on defense. Secondary is kind of rebuilt. I mean, you add like Storm Duck and Marquise Groves-Killebrew in the transfer portal, Jarvis Brownlee, Quincy Riley, and Ben Perry are back. Pretty good starters there. Safety, you get both of those players back. So I think there is optimism. The pass coverage can improve. But again, I think the main matchup they want to focus on here is defending the run against Georgia Tech. For Georgia Tech, a team I'm not really sure on. They fire their head coach, but then they promote internally. I don't really love when teams do that. You're basically taking bad coaching staffs and then giving them upgrades. We'll see how it works. Haynes King comes over at quarterback from Texas A&M. Not really the greatest option here, but I don't think Texas A&M did him any favors, so maybe we're dealing with more of an unknown than anything else. Dante Smith is back at running back. He was awesome. They definitely upgraded receiver, adding Georgia transfer Dominic Blaylock, Alabama transfer Christian Leary, Texas A&M Chase Lane. But a lot of these guys' profile is slots. They have like 3 starting slot receivers on the team, and their coaching staff came right out and said they're going to use 8 receivers. They didn't list a depth chart, so I'm taking them at their word. I don't think they really have a clear top 3, and until that gets shaken out, I'm a little worried here. And people talk about the continuity issues with Louisville. They're not talking about them with Georgia Tech, and I think a lot of them actually are parallel here. Offensive line is a huge concern. You return 5 guys with starting experience, but according to Pro Football Focus, there wasn't a single offensive lineman that was above average in terms of pass blocking or run blocking for this unit. Again, the strength of Louisville is going to be that interior defensive line. I'm not sure Georgia Tech can run on them. And then the back end, I'm not as concerned here, but I think right away, the defense for this team has questions. Like, you don't lose a ton of guys, but you lose premier guys. Like Keon White, your best player, your edge rusher, who got drafted, he's gone. I think the linebacker group's going to rely entirely on starters. You lose a couple guys there. You lose 1 corner. Your safety should be pretty good, which is solid here. But I have a lot of concerns for this Georgia Tech team against a Louisville team that can spread you out, beat you in multiple ways. And I like that Louisville offensive line. I would take a -7 with Louisville. I haven't yet. It is not available to me. Books kind of not budging on that juiced 7.5. So we'll wait and we'll try to get a 7. But Louisville is the side I will be looking at in this game. Final spot, Hawaii. They return, taking on Stanford. Got to take my L. Could not have been more wrong on Hawaii in week 1. But we live and we learn. The run and shoot offense under Timmy Chang in year 2 seems to be humming already. And I personally think Stanford is the worst Power 5 team in the country. Their depth chart was crazy. They listed oars at every single starting skill position except tight end. That's Benjamin Jurasic. It makes sense. They don't have a clear option at quarterback. I think probably their best is Ari Patu, but you're going to see like Lamson probably playing this game. Their rushers were both bad. Their offensive line got pillaged in the portal. Their defense is horrific. They don't have any clear receivers outside of Jurasic. In Hawaii, I mean, this team played a better defense in week 0 in Vanderbilt. Their offense looked awesome. They got a ton out of their redshirt freshman Pofeli Ashlock at receiver. Stephen McBride, the Kansas transfer. They didn't even have Jonah Pinock playing in the game. He projected to be their number 1. And then that defense isn't good. But again, I don't think Stanford is a high-powered offense that can necessarily score on you. I like Hawaii plus 3.5. I played it myself. The main concern for me with this Hawaii team is short rest. You played on Saturday last week, and now you've got one less day playing on Friday this week. But you do return home. Stanford's a mess, so we'll continue to play this. The number is still favorable here. But that'll do it for us today. Leave a comment. Let me know which side of these games you are on. And we will have videos Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, as well as all throughout the rest of the season. So hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Matt_Gajewski. Otherwise, good luck, everyone. We'll see you again next time.